What's up everyone, it's Ty the TV Guy back with another Stranger Things video where I'll be discussing the top 10 smartest characters in the show. Now just to explain my process and how exactly I determine this list, I am only including main central characters to the show. So basically how I would define that just real quickly is like anyone more involved than Erica or Murray is a main character. Anyone less involved than that is not a main character. So certain characters for me that don't quite make the cut as like a main character of the entire show is someone like Bob Newby or even Dr. Brenner. I slightly have not really being a main character at this point. While they definitely make major contributions in the seasons they're in, I just feel like they don't get enough screen time to be considered for a list like this. And plus, if I just included like every doctor, like Dr. Brenner, Dr. Owens, Alexei, you know, the list would be taken up of a lot of characters that I wouldn't have much to talk about with them. So I just think this is the better way to do it. And there are a couple super brilliant non-main characters that I want to announce. One is Bob Newby, the founder of the Hawkins AV Club and the one who uncovered a lot for them in season 2 despite his limited screen time. And the other one is Susie, who even though she's only been in like 3 episodes in the entire show, she has had quite the impact. And as always, if you guys like this video idea and love Stranger Things content, like and subscribe to the channel. Alright, so as always, the like 9 and 10 spots were the hardest for me because whoever I don't pick for those last couple spots is going to be completely off the list as far as main characters go, but I did end up giving the 10 spot to Erica Sinclair. I think especially for her age, Erica proves to be brilliant over and over again, especially with the verbiage and the language she uses when expressing herself a lot of times. Some of the moments that highlight her intelligence, I think, are in season 4 when she's going on that rant to Eddie about the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, about how she's Lady Applejack and she's not going to back down and all that. And then her little rant in season 3 to Dustin, Steve, and Robin about capitalism. I thought both of those were, really good displays of her intelligence and also just really funny. She's a great character, even though not one of the more prominent main characters. At number 9, I have Max, and I think her smarts are a little harder to identify than the average character in the show. I think you have to dig a little deeper to see just how smart she is. Like, I don't think she's solving as many mysteries as characters like Dustin, Mike, Nancy, and all them, but she is still really intelligent. You know, she has the high score, like, by far on Dig Dug that even all the nerds couldn't get. She realizes that they're stalking her in one of her first scenes in season 2 as well. And then I also feel like she's just really emotionally intelligent and in touch with her feelings, especially as we see in season 4, she's really devastated by the loss of Billy and just by how traumatic that event was in her life. Writing the letters to everybody and just staying calm the way she did under pressure was really impressive, I think. And then I would say her smartest moment is probably just recognizing the trend of deaths in season 4 and escaping Vecna for as long as possible the couple times she was within his grasp. Alright, now moving up to number 8, I have Hopper. And once again, I feel like he might not be initially thought of as super intelligent in the traditional sense. Maybe he has a bit more street smarts. Obviously, he's a good detective as a police officer, but his skills and savvy go beyond that, I think, and that's kind of put on full display in season 4 when he's in dire situations and thinks really well and quickly on his feet. And so this is where I think his most intelligent moments are shown, all in season 4, basically when he plans to escape his ankle shackles, the whole plan he devised with that, and just his escape plan in general from the Russian prison. And then also later in the season when he steals the lighter and alcohol and basically plots that whole fake fight scenario with Enzo just so he could get the lighter off the security guard. That was actually brilliant looking back on it. So I know Hopper might kind of be viewed as like a brute, and you know, just that stereotype isn't necessarily thought of as super smart at a lot of times. And yeah, he doesn't use the biggest words and stuff like some of the other characters, but I do think when it comes down to it, he is still one of the smartest characters in the show, and 8 could even be a little low for him. But because of like the lack of traditional intelligence kind of, I decided to put him a little lower. At number 7, I have Nancy. I definitely think, other than Hopper, who's a police officer, she's kind of like the best detective in the show. She's like real good at looking for clues, figuring things out. She has that journalistic instinct, as I've referenced before. And so I really think in every season, she's uncovering things that not many characters in the show are capable of or are willing to do. You know, in season 1, she's kind of on the trail of the monster and figuring things out with that. Season 3, she's all, figuring out what's going on with the rodents and Mrs. Driscoll, and she knows something is off with Tom. And then as far as executing their plan in the Upside Down, now, it doesn't really go exactly to plan, but she is the one who devises the plan and comes up with all the different moving parts and elements of that, including Eddie distracting, Max, Lucas, and Erica going to the Creel house, and then her, Robin, and Steve executing their part in the Upside Down version of the Creel house. Once again, it didn't all go exactly to plan, but it kind of worked out in the end, but kind of lost Max, so But, you know, nobody could have probably made a perfect plan under those circumstances. And then I also forgot to mention how in season 2, she took the tape recorder into Hawkins' lab to try to basically burn that place to the ground or really get them in trouble for all the awful things they've done. But yeah, Nancy's really, really smart and kind of always at the forefront of discovering new things to help the crew. At number 6, I decided to go with Robin, and even though her history of uncovering things for the crew is less extensive than Nancy because she hasn't been in the show as long, I still do feel like she's made some of the most significant contributions in that vein. And of course, the one that really stands out with her is cracking the secret Russian code in season 3. Otherwise, she definitely does a good job kind of decoding what Victor Creel told them in season 4 about how music moved him and was kind of his escape from not dying. And, you know, they were able to relay that information onto Dustin, Lucas, and Steve so that they could help Max survive that situation in episode 4 of Dear Billy. And then, not to be stereotypical, but, you know, she's also in band and kind of known as a nerd by the other characters in the show, so she kind of just proves her intelligence in that way as well. Alrighty, now we're into the top 5, and I'm going to do something here that I have never done in one of my ranking videos. I'm actually going to give a tie for the number 4 spot. So the 5 and 4 are both going to be tied at number 4. And I'm normally against this because I feel like the point of making a list is to show who's above who and, you know, where they fall in order. But I really just couldn't decide here, and I thought it would have been unfair to the character that I placed lower than the other one. So I have Mike and Lucas tied at number 4 here. I feel like they're actually pretty equal in terms of their intelligent contributions to the group in different scenarios throughout the show thus far. That being said, I do think they handle things differently and kind of process situations unfolding in a different manner. Lucas, I think, is a little bit more pragmatic and resourceful. There's a couple moments I think of in season 3, one where he kind of looks around, grabs the axe, and helps out Eleven from being taken by the mind flare as it's at Hopper's cabin. And then the other moment is when, you know, he's trying to devise the plan with the fireworks at the end of the season once again to damage the mind flare. So he was really resourceful, like I said, in season 3 in these scenarios. Not to mention he always has his wrist rocket handy as well. I also think he really grows to be super emotionally intelligent as the show goes on, especially in season 4. When he really grows to empathize and understand Max and other people and what they're going through. And I definitely think at times that's where he strives more so than Mike. And then the last note I have on Lucas is that I don't think he necessarily sparks a lot of the initial ideas for how to solve problems for the crew. I do think that's usually either Mike, Dustin, or sometimes Nancy. But once someone does spark the idea, Lucas always has some really good insight and additional thoughts from a technical standpoint or, you know, from a science standpoint. He's always butting into the conversation and saying something impactful. And then when you look at Mike, I feel like in duller moments or in more like personal moments, his intelligence might be slightly lower than Lucas. But I do feel like in the big moments or when they really need a plan, Mike can cook something up really fast and it's super impressive. Basically all of season 2, Mike was doing this. The plan at the end of the season to help out Eleven and light the hub of the hive mind on fire was absolutely genius. And it did provide the assistance needed for Eleven to close the gate and escape. And then if you turn back the clock a little bit, earlier in the season, he is the first one to really understand what's going on between Will and the Upside Down and the real world, and understanding that Will was becoming a spy, so they had to put him to sleep, and that he basically already warned the Mind Flayer of what was happening, and that everybody needs to get ready, basically. Mike is also kind of the mastermind behind the sauna test in season 3, as well as making many other contributions throughout the show, of course, too. And we can't forget that he also was the most accepting of Eleven initially in season 1, and it's a really good thing that he kept her around because they sure did need her. And at number 3, I do have Will. Now, to be honest, just with what we've seen on screen, with Will on screen, he definitely would not be anywhere near this high. For whatever reason, the way he's written, he doesn't seem to butt into these conversations and give good insight or good like scientific background like Lucas or Dustin always seems to. There is a moment in season 3 that I think of with Will when he's kind of like encouraging the group to let Mrs. Driscoll go to the place she wants to go so they can figure out where the source is. And I thought that was smart by him. But he doesn't have a lot of lines like that in the show like all the other characters do. But of course, as you know, the reason I do have Will this high is because he survived the Upside Down for as long as he did in season 1. And he figured out how to communicate with his mom and others in the Right Side Up through the lights and other methods all by himself. And I think doing that at such a young age and just with really no resources was pretty impressive, and just staying alive in general and evading the Upside Down monsters and Vecna also really, really cool and shows his intelligence. So really just for that and that alone, I do think he deserves to be this high. I don't think they've done a great job of showcasing how intelligent he is since then, but I think that will come back to the forefront like a lot of other things relating to Will in season 5. And Will is also just part of the group of 4 boys, and they're just all nerds and really smart and have won the science fair for however many years in a row. So they're all really smart, and he has the fact that he survived the Upside Down. So that's why he ranks above Mike and Lucas for me. At number 2, I have Murray, and for those that want to argue Murray isn't a main character, he's been in the show for 3 out of the 4 seasons and has really been a main and prominent character within that for seasons 3 and 4. So, in my opinion, if he isn't a main character, then neither is Robin, neither is Erica. So, I do include him in this list. And then, to me, obviously, if he's going to be included, he's going to be one of the smartest. I mean, first and foremost, he can translate and speak another language, which is Russian, which is not the easiest for an American to learn. So that in and of itself and his fluency in that really highlights his intelligence and is just super crucial for the success of the team, especially in seasons 3 and 4. Like literally without Murray's translation skills and the underground tunnels in season 3, they wouldn't have been able to get through peacefully. And I think the most impressive use of his translation skills is in season 4 with the plan to act as Yuri and the execution of said plan in the later episodes of season 4 and how he's able to fool the guards into getting into that top secret Russian prison. His intelligence definitely does go beyond his translation skills, however, as earlier in the show he does a really good job like reading Jonathan and Nancy and basically exactly describes their relationship with their boyfriend and Jonathan with his dad. And, you know, how he has trust issues and everything. He, like, literally describes them to a T without even knowing them. And, yeah, Murray's just the GOAT, can translate, can come up with really smart plans, can read and understand people like no other. So he's got to be up here at number 2. But number 1, as most of you would have predicted, is Dustin Henderson. Now, he might have less wisdom than someone like Murray, and he can't speak multiple languages, but the amount of times he has uncovered something or created a plan or helped the whole crew understand a concept about the monsters, the Upside Down, or things that are unfolding in Hawkins is absolutely astounding. Especially at his age, having the critical thinking skills he does is mind-blowing. And even though he has impressive smart moments in every season, I do think the most impressive ones came in season 4 with his revelations relating to Vecna as he explained it to Lucas and Erica in the living room of the Wheeler's house when he was kind of like, Vecna's the 5-star general that wanted the power of open gates. So when he uncovers all that, that's brilliant. And then he kind of facilitates the light communication to the Upside Down, figuring out that Nancy, Eddie, and Steve and Robin were in the Upside Down. And then to wrap that all up in a bow, he even theorized that Watergate existed in the lake, and sure enough, he was right on the money. And so I think Dustin was even smarter than normal in season 4, but he's always been really good at understanding things and coming up with intelligent plans. And the sign of someone that's really smart is even if you don't know the answer, you know who to go to for the answer. And that's exactly what he did at the end of season 3, calling up his brilliant girlfriend, Susie. So that's my list of the 10 smartest main characters in Stranger Things. Let me know what you guys might have changed up, who you think I left off the list that I shouldn't have. Of course, the main characters that didn't end up making my top 10 were characters like Joyce, Jonathan, Steve, Billy, 11, who I just narrowly had off the list. She was probably actually number 11 for me in my rankings. And it's not that all those characters aren't smart, it's just that like over half of these main characters are like literal or almost literal geniuses, so it's a hard list to crack. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and the concept. I'll be back with more Stranger Things content. I'm going to be pouring it out until the final season and all 3 of its parts come out. So stay tuned for that. And until next video, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.